I'm Ashleigh C, reporting for Kids First, and today I have the delight to chat with Dr. Tessa Commers, the host and writer of the Tracks podcast, That's Totally Normal. Dr. Tessa Commers is a board-certified pediatrician. She is passionate about answering tough questions from her adolescent patients, the ones most teenagers avoid due to fear of embarrassment and repercussions. She has reached over 1.5 million followers with her TikTok videos, as well as her podcast, which we are discussing today. Welcome to the show, Dr. T.
Thank you so much for having me. I am honored to be here. I love watching your interviews and your show, so thank you so much.
Well, it's really great to finally hear the voice behind That's Totally Normal. So my first question for you is, what made you think that there needed to be a platform for young people such as me to learn some of these really important topics?
Well, we tend to, in medicine, it's very easy for parents to bring their kids to doctor's appointments. And then when we get older, we tend to go to the doctor when we need some help. But there is that transition from childhood to adulthood that has a lot of big body and life changes. And there's also a lot of confusion as to when to go to the doctor, who takes me to the doctor, is it okay to ask this question to a doctor? And so a lot of times questions and body changes that happen between, the ages of 10 and 20 sometimes go unanswered. And so it's really an age group that has a lot of opportunity to learn about their body. And we answer questions on the podcast. I answer questions through my social media, but trying to answer some of those questions that they want to know, but they're just not really sure if it's okay to ask or who to ask. So that's really where it came to me. Was I know a lot of teenagers who are nervous to go to the doctor and ask these questions. And so that's where it came from.
Okay, well, you did talk about like the different questions that you had to use for the podcast. So what comes to mind and what questions are you thinking about when developing the podcast beforehand?
So we went through, our podcast has 22 episodes, as you probably know, and each one covers a different topic. And we want to include a little bit of science behind what's going on, as well as some practical information. And so there are probably 5 more seasons I could come up with as far as topics that we could talk about. But we sat down and went through what are some of the major changes that happen to the body during this time period that we could really dive into and give a little bit more detail and background to. And so we came up with ones that are pretty basic things that happen to your body during puberty, like acne, body hair, some of those changes. And then some of the ones that are definitely a part of that transition, but you don't necessarily think of immediately, but things like mental health and relationships. And so we tried to be pretty broad and cover as many of those, kind of the surface, the ones that we think about relating to that time period. We tried to cover as many as we could, but it was a group effort in thinking of what are the topics that we could really tackle and talk about in a scientific way and a practical way.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I know that you said that you could make at least like 5 more seasons, which I would enjoy, by the way. So each episode is fairly short, so like ranging from like 8 to 18 minutes. So you kind of touched on this, but how did you find a way to exclude or even include certain information that's really, really important?
That is a great question. And it is a group effort. So I am, obviously, my background is medicine and clinical training. And so what I contribute is a lot of the basic medical science information. And then I've really relied on our team to let me know sort of the extra fun stuff and what people really like to listen to. So I I take my first attempt at writing an episode, and then I send it to the team and they give me some feedback as far as what I could talk a little bit more about, or maybe you talked way too much about this and no one's going to find that interesting. It might be interesting to a doctor, but not to someone who's listening. So I think it really is a team effort. And as you noted, the episodes really do range in time as well as participation. So we have a group of younger folks who contribute to our episodes that give us some quotes and a little sprinkle of their own experiences. And so they really enhance a lot of the episodes. So when they're comfortable talking about certain topics, they are very happy to share their own experiences. And we try to kind of change up the podcast by adding those voices besides my own voice. And I really love those episodes. There are certainly topics that people aren't necessarily as comfortable sharing their own personal experience. And it's a lot of just me talking, and that's okay. But I love the contribution of the team, the podcast team, as well as our young folks who give some of our best audio clips to our podcasts as well. So it's a lot of input and a lot of different backgrounds that make our episodes what they are.
Yeah, I really love the aspect of other kids actually participating and asking questions and then centering the actual podcast or episode around that. I found that really interesting and actually very helpful for the information that you provided. And I digress. So in your professional opinion, what are some harms that tweens or teens not learning these topics when they are young rather than old?
So, I think that this is definitely something that we are getting better with as a society, but we do have a long way to go in that talking about our bodies and the changes and wondering if that's normal. A lot of times, if we don't see it, we are afraid to ask about it. Or if we don't see other people talking about it, we're afraid to ask about it. And I think the harm in that is growing up thinking that there's something wrong with you or something that you should be ashamed of. And so, again, what I really love about this podcast is that we are putting that information out there and saying, it's okay. Everyone's going through it. And a lot of people are wondering these same questions. And you are so normal. So I think that really what we are providing is reassurance and letting people know that it's okay to talk about it, because keeping those feelings inside can lead to what I view as a problem with body acceptance and comfort in your own skin in the future. So I do think that talking about it or knowing that other people are talking about it is really helpful.
Yeah. I mean, everything about this podcast, it is touching on some quote unquote uncomfortable topics, but yet everything about it is very reassuring. I mean, from you, your nickname, Dr. T, to that's totally normal, everything's reassuring. So my last question and final question for you is, what do you hope adolescents will really take away from this podcast?
Kind of, it relates to your last question in that I really hope they know that it is okay to have questions about your body. And this is a time period where everyone's body is going through a lot of changes. And that includes the changes that you can see on the outside, as well as changes that you can't see. So changes with your mind and your relationships. And so it is okay to feel kind of funny in your skin, but know that everybody else is going through this also. It's okay to talk about it, and you are normal. So I really do hope that people, even though it's an uncomfortable time period, know that you're okay. And it gets better. I promise it gets better for sure.
Well, thank you for talking with me, Dr. T.
It was my pleasure. I loved talking with you.
Well, thank you. You guys can listen to the podcast That's Totally Normal now on tracks.fm/tracks, That's Totally Normal. I'm Ashleigh C reporting for Kids First. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel and follow us on all social media platforms to stay up to date with interviews just like this, as well as reviews from me and my amazing teammates. Again, thanks for watching. Bye.